This is Geoffrey, Njue, Specialty Crops Extension Specialist with SDSU Extension again. I'm here to talk about the third section of our growing transplants presentation. And in this part, we are going to talk about the germination and growing environment for your transplant. In the first and second section, we talked about things that you are going to use to start to grow your transplants. Now we are going to talk about the environment that you need to have in growing your transplants. First of all, let's talk about germination. The temperature for germination, the ideal temperature for germination is between 65 and 75 degrees Fahrenheit for most species. And this is the soil temperature. And during the time when you are growing your transplant, you are starting your transplants either in the late winter or early spring, you may not have that kind of temperature in your soil or in your media. And so it is helpful to have bottom heat, which can be provided by heat mats that you can easily get in your local garden center. And the other important environment requirement for germination is moisture. Your media should be moist because a seed would require moisture to germinate. But you need to have just a consistent moist media. You don't want to overwater and drown the seeds, because when you overwater, you exclude oxygen, which is required by the seeds to germinate. And so the media should be aerated and just maintain a consistent moisture. And finally, on the germination environment is light. Some seeds species may need light to germinate, but most of them do not. So what you need to do is check on your seed packet, because they will have tips on how you can start those seeds. Some questions but some people may ask is, do I need to cover the seeds or not? Covering helps in helping to hold moisture, but of course it does reduce the light. And so if you are growing or you are starting seeds that require light to germinate, then you may not want to cover the seeds. But if, as I said, most species do not require light, and so for those that do not require light, you can cover, but don't cover them more than, the rule of the thumb is a quarter of the diameter, not more than a quarter, 4 times the diameter of the seed. There are several that require light, others that do not, that require darkness, and I'm not going to go through the list. You will see them on the presentation. And finally, on this section, we are going to talk about how to keep the seedlings healthy, which is part of the environment for growing the transplant. We talk about light. Light is very important in growing your transplants. As the seeds germinate and the transplants start to grow, you need a lot of light. More is better than less. Most of them would need up to about 16 hours of light in a day. And so, although you can start your seedlings on, place your transplants on a sunny window, south-facing window, this may not necessarily provide sufficient light. And so we would recommend that you get some cool white full spectrum fluorescent fixtures or lights above your transplants, and you place them about 6 to 12 inches above your transplants. And as the transplants grow, as the plants grow, you move the lights up. And finally, on this, we're going to talk about fertility. When you put the seeds in the soil, they do not require any fertility. So in the first week and maybe up to the second week, you don't need to apply any fertilizer, because they don't need any fertility. The seed has enough energy to help the seeds to start and to grow. But in the second to the 5th week, you need to provide these plants with fertilizer, which you use as a water-soluble fertilizer, and you provide 50 to 100 parts per million. And you look at the label in the fertilizer bag and follow the label directions. And that brings us to the end of this section. We'll see you in the next section.